What I want to create a little context. So within the Gimmal community and within that, the Gimmal Physical product community, this is part of our regular product feature review surrounding a new release. So we want to create a little bit of context. You're seeing that we're doing a lot more marketing. We're doing a lot more with our user community, with the user groups, and appreciate you guys attending. We're also very active at industry events and conferences, and appreciate seeing you guys at those as well. So we're going to highlight new features in this release, and I just want to create some context. So what you're seeing is kind of this new process. You're also seeing the new graphics and branding that Kim and the marketing team have done. With this release, we're also kind of conscious that this release happens to be one very focused on connectors. We'll talk to you about that as we highlight them. So it's a little bit specialized for people where that will be relevant. So this particular release is fairly specific to those features as opposed to other releases that are more enhancements to the overall product. So we were just kind of conscious of that. We want to create regular webinars and communications around these features releases, but there was nothing intentional that this is, a huge feature enhancement release, anything of that nature. It's really just starting this process, and this is the one that the release that happened to land on. So with that, I want to introduce Marta, our head of product management for Gimmal Physical, and she'll walk us through the material here.
Hello, everyone. As Kurt said, my name is Marta Ferensbach. I am the product manager here for Gimmal Physical, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about the agenda. We're going to be reviewing the general enhancements to the 313 version. We'll talk about the connectors that we've included in this version. We're also going to discuss some ongoing feature enhancements that you'll see in the product shortly. And lastly, we'll open up the floor for a Q&A. And with that, I'm actually going to turn it over to the star of Gimmal Physical product, who many of you know, which is Tim Butler, who will introduce himself. Tim?
All right, thanks, Marta. Yeah, guys, Tim Butler here, hearkening from Infolink's vintage years. And to that end, guys, I just wanted to make a quick note. We are actually, the product, I should say, Gimmal Physical, is celebrating its 36th birthday this year. So some of us, Kurt and I in particular, have been along for most of that ride, have been in the industry for decades. And I want to emphasize something that Kurt said, guys, that we're making a really concerted effort here at Gimmal to not develop in a vacuum, which can sometimes happen to products that have been around forever, like Gimmal Physical or Infolinks. And so we're trying really hard to make sure that we bring you along for the ride, because in the end, as I was already said, a product of this maturity, now 3.5 decades in the market, in the end, when it comes to enhancements and improvements, they really boil down to two things. Number one is integrations or connectors to other products, which we're going to talk about a little bit here today. But in addition to that, guys, we get to a point, having been doing this for so long, that we just can't see the trees because of the forest. We covet, we need your input. So whether it's a part of the chat today or a quick little shameless plug here for our Gimmal users group later this summer, we invite you to be a part of that, because truly our best ideas come from you. So as was already said, thank you for taking some time out of your day to listen to this webinar, but also into the future. Please let us know your thoughts. We are very grateful for them. So general enhancements to Gimmal Physical 313. We're going to start there, and just a sampling here, guys, just to emphasize what we're trying to do. We're trying to, whether it's little or big stuff, we're trying to bring you along and invite your collaboration and your input. Now, one of the big themes here at Gimmal in terms of improving the product, again, based upon feedback from customers, is continuing to improve our classification and records retention disposition functionality. It's already pretty good. It's very mature, very well received in the market, but we're always open to learning more and continuing to improve that feature of the product. To that end, the first little bullet on the slide here, just a little thing, but for some clients, this is pretty important. We've always had the capability in Gimmal Physical to define time spans by years and months. And some of you know this firsthand, that sometimes your rules are written that it actually specifies days. So a little thing, but an important thing. So for the overall theme of improving classification, record schedules, disposition, one little bullet we wanted to call out here for those of you needing that field for days to specify a number of days is now part of the software. Bullet number 2, really reflective, guys, for our larger clients and or for our clients that are processing lots of data. This is sort of a transparent thing. You're not going to just notice it. It's not obvious window dressing wise, but it's pretty important. So for our large clients who are housing, managing millions of records within Gimmal Physical, as well as for clients that don't have quite that much data, but they're processing lots of data at once, these background improvements, and you can read the details there yourself, but we spent some good time here with our technical staff to really improve their performance and accessibility of the software. In particular, where you will see this obvious to you as an end user is those data intensive activities, things like importing data into Gimmal Physical, exporting data out of Gimmal Physical, using the features known as bulk update or search and replace reports, and then the disposition process itself. In summary, all of those big data activities, we've just made them run faster so that you don't have to wait so long for the results. And then just kind of a minor point again, except for those of you who are on-prem and those of you that will be receiving upgrades on-prem, we've just improved the installation experience. Just some technical stuff there. So if we have any IT folks in audience today, or you can pass it on to them, just let them know we've made their life easier when it comes to installing and or updating your on-premises Gimmal Physical application. All right, with those general enhancements, improvements, let's kind of pivot, guys, over to the other aspect of things we focus on, and that's integrations in the industry. This first one here, we're pretty excited about. We're excited about all of them, but this one in particular, because it's another one of our Gimmal products. Many of you are not familiar with Gimmal Records, but to summarize very quickly what the Gimmal Records product does, it does for electronic records what Gimmal Physical does for physical records. That is via the use of metadata, we manage those records, we guide them through their life cycle until eventual disposition. So we've internally here begun to glue the two products together, that is Gimmal Records and Gimmal Physical via this Gimmal Records connector. The idea here, guys, you'll see some details on the slide in front of you, but the idea overall, I don't want you to get lost in the details of the slide, is that we really want one source of truth for the rules, for the file plans, for the life cycles, whatever words you like to use, retention schedules, record schedules. We want those, the master copy, the source of truth to live in one place. And that's what this connector provides. For those of you using Gimmal Records, you already know that. We house what's called file plans in Gimmal Records, the rules for how long to keep records. We're now able to connect both Gimmal Records and Gimmal Physical. So for those of you that are using Gimmal Records and Gimmal Physical, we now have this integration available to you to kind of simplify your life in terms of managing the schedules themselves. For those of you that are only using Gimmal Records, you now have a really nice connector to adopt the Gimmal Physical product with less work and less effort on your side. And then for those of you, probably the majority of our audience today, using Gimmal Physical or thinking about using Gimmal Physical, just keep this in the back of your mind. There's a really nice connector to allow you to not only manage your physical records, but also the electronic records as well. Now, for those of you that are visual learners, just a quick architectural diagram here, just kind of displaying for you the basic concept here. Gimmal Records, the source of truth for retention file plans. Those can be pushed into Gimmal Physical via a records API with the hope for outcome that eventually, of course, you can disposition, which usually, of course, means destroy those records. To look at it from a different perspective, we included a couple screenshots here, guys, for those of you familiar with either or both products. On the left there is, you'll be familiar with that Gimmal Records screenshot. Just a picture of the file plans there highlighted in yellow. Appreciate that what's known as file plans currently in Gimmal Records, we're pushing that information onto what most of you have called the record schedule tab in Gimmal Physical, although you may have called it something slightly different. And then in that upper right, you're just seeing the detail that has been carried forward from one system to the other. Another way to say this, guys, is Gimmal Physical will rely upon Gimmal Records as the source of truth for the metadata that's utilized in Gimmal Physical for classifying the records. Connector number 2, also excited about this one, guys. So the Access Unify connector, I'm going to kind of frame this part of the presentation, guys, with Gimmal Physical, as we've said, has been doing this for a really long time, and we've now reached the point in the industry where we have established connectors with what I like to call the big 3 when it comes to the management of off-site records in other warehouses. So most of you are familiar with the big gorilla on the block, that is Iron Mountain. Long-standing integration with Iron Mountain. Secondly, we've also had an integration with O'Neill for quite a few years. And number 3, now coming to market, is our integration with Access. Those of you housing materials over there at Access, you will know the interface that they provide to you. You will know it as FileBridge, but Access is providing to us as an integrator what they're calling the Unify connector. In the end, guys, whether it's Iron Mountain, O'Neill, or Access, which we're focusing on here today, the end result will be the ability for you to manage your physical records from a single pane of glass. Specifically, that is the Gimmal Physical application. So some details to back that up. We are in process. I think Kurt made reference to this, guys. We wanted to get it to market right away, and we are actively seeking early adopters of this. So if you are housing records over at Access, please reach out to Kurt in particular, but really to any of us. We want to speak to you. We appreciate this is our first effort at it. We'll be right up front with you and let you know we're continuing to improve this connector even as we speak. But it's kind of that what we call the MVP. It's ready for the market, but we're looking for feedback from those of you. Specifically, what the connector does, you see at the topmost bullet there, it really is just replacing the transactional business that you use FileBridge for. You can now do that directly from the Gimmal Physical interface. Below that, just some technical details, guys, based upon what I've already said. Please appreciate that our initial foray into this integration is for boxes only. Access can manage files as well. That'll be a part of the next release. And then again, for the visual learners amongst us, here's our little architectural diagram, just displaying for you what's going on here. Gimmal Physical, the system of record, so to speak, for your physical records is the desire. We use that Access Unify API to sync data back and forth. It is bi-directional into the Access system itself. They happen to use a piece of software internally there known as Total Recall. So what you're doing is from Gimmal Physical, all of that is transparent to you. You simply go into Gimmal Physical, whether it's at Iron Mountain, O'Neill, or in this case, an Access warehouse, you can now manage all hard copy records directly from the Gimmal Physical interface. A couple of screenshots to back all that up, guys. So screenshots here within Gimmal Physical itself, just highlighting what you will see as part of that connector. There is some configuration settings, of course, in the left that need to be set, a one-time effort. And then on the right, highlighted in yellow, for those of you that wind up using this connector, you're going to see an additional control or two, those ones that are highlighted, that allow you to specify delivery properties based upon your contracts with Access itself. And then down below, that big control just translates to the folks at Access, when they deliver your items, your boxes, that control down below is what enables them to bring those boxes to the right place. And just two more screenshots here. So on the request side, on the front end, for the records managers amongst us, and I do want to assuage any fears that come up. I think most of you are familiar with this already, but in case you're not, we are always encouraging you to roll out Gimmal Physical to the masses within your organization. which includes their ability to search and request items that are off-site. Now, the fear that sometimes arises is, oh, Tim, if we do that, we can't have that because it's pretty expensive just to willy-nilly request stuff back and forth between these off-site vendors. We completely appreciate that. The screenshot on the right, guys, is just an example that basically end users can initiate the request, but it gets put into a holding queue as illustrated on the right. And it's really not until you, as the records manager, you can approve, you can reject, you can delete, but that little submit button highlighted in red, that's the magic button. When you click that button, it will aggregate all of those requests for records housed at access into one and send them over into their system. And then just, guys, a couple more things we wanted to highlight for you here. Depending upon your use case, some of these will be wonderful. Some of them won't matter so much to you, but we wanted to call some of these out. So some of the ongoing feature enhancements. Number one includes, again, related back to the theme of improving our disposition capabilities. For those of you using Gimmal Physical for the disposition feature itself, we've always had the ability as part of the disposition module to either create a disposition batch across the entire enterprise or to filter it organizational unit by unit. But we're now also introducing another option where, in addition to those capabilities, you can also execute these batches by location. In particular, this has been placed in for our global clients that really do need to segregate or aggregate their disposition batches by location-specific information. Secondly, a little thing, but for some folks, it's a wonderful thing. It has always been the case in Gimmal Physical that when you're importing data in, you can import data into any of the fields on any of the tabs, except those controls that we call many-to-many. And in a little plainer English, what we're talking about there is, let's say for a single box or a single file, you've got a list of checkboxes where you can select more than one. A little bit technical there, apologies, but we refer to that as a many-to-many control. Well, you're now able to import data into those many-to-many controls. Previously, you could not do it. So if you have these controls and you are importing data, pretty nice feature that you're going to want to include and you will get as part of your upgrade. And then finally, guys, one more feature to call out here. We're continuing to improve some of the data validation aspects of the software itself. A very practical one here, specific to date fields, date from and date to, and then in conjunction with those two, what's known as the cutoff date or the event date or the critical date, the date from which the clock starts running for disposition purposes. We've introduced some more advanced logic here to ensure that things like date from can't come after the to date or the date to. And with that, guys, I want to turn it back over to Marta to talk a little bit more about just our website and how we're working feverishly to improve the documentation aspects of the solution.
Yeah, and I wanted to thank you, Tim. That was wonderful preview of the features, and to talk a little bit about. We've definitely heard a lot of commentary on the documentation that people would like to see that refreshed, and as part of that, we are actually leveraging our docs.gimmal.com site, and within the next few months you're going to see a lot of updates to this site, including and integrating a lot of the documentation that's in the tool right now, but it's going to be updated with the more modern features that we've been talking about today. So please keep an eye on the docs.gimmal.com site. You can see the release notes right now there, and we still have some of the older documentation there, but it is all going to be integrated into this site over the next few months. So we wanted to point that out. We have heard loud and clear that you'd like to see that modernized, and we are working to do that. So again, docs.gimmal.com, just access that and take a look. And any suggestions you'd like to see for other collateral, we're happy to accommodate that. So please let us know as well. And speaking of which, let's go ahead, if you'd like to use the chat or otherwise, just to talk about any questions you might have. Let me go ahead. You see the link that is there to the documentation. Thank you. Any questions on the new features that we've presented today?
Hi, Marta.
Hello, how are you, Joel?
I'm good. I got here a little bit late. For some reason, I thought the meeting was at 2. So I got here about maybe 10 after. So I'm not sure what I missed. But here in Ulster County, we're really interested in your disposition module. That's like our main bread and butter, so to speak. And I was wondering how that is coming along.
Very well. So we're putting some features in for the tool, and we're actually going to be having actually conversations with you. You're on our list for sure. But we are distilling. So as you can imagine, updates to the disposition is used by a lot of different customers. So we want to make sure that the updates that we perform are going to be feature rich enough that everybody can use it without adding too much challenges for their current process. So what we're going to do is we're putting that together, and then we're going to reach out to key clients, including you, Joel, to talk about what it's going to look like to make sure that satisfies your needs for your specific customization, that you'll be able to modernize that into the latest version. So please look out for this space. Email from myself or Kurt or Tim, one of us, will be in contact with you over the next few weeks to discuss that with you. So yes, it's actively being discussed, actively being architected, so that to make sure we accommodate your feedback and the feedback of other customers as well.
I appreciate that, Marta.
Well, I appreciate you asking the question.
I'm very hopeful that it's similar to what we're currently using in Infolinks, because that process is absolutely top notch, right, Tim?
Amen, Joe. Amen.
It works wonderfully for us. So I'm hoping that the same thing moves on to the Gimmal product. That would be really wonderful.
Yeah, I think you'll be pleased, Joel.
Okay, great.
So
that's the only question I think I have at this moment. Let's continue.
All right. Well, we do have another question from Julia asking regarding FileBridge capturing the box status in our permanently destroyed. Is it captured in Gimmal Physical? The answer is yes, when we do a synchronization. So as part of the onboarding process, we're going to be doing some pre-implementation steps to make sure the data is in the proper format, etc. But once that is done, once we know that the data can talk to one another, if you will, then we do a synchronization. And that synchronization actually will update those values going back and forth, and to make sure that they are identical with the systems, that they match one another. So we will be having the boxes synchronized and having that information available to the end user. Other questions? Other information. And once again, I can imagine that a lot of you might have questions that you might not think of right now. We do encourage you, I believe July 11th is when our user group will be. We encourage you to attend the user group. If you need an invite, if you haven't received that link, just contact us at support, or contact Tim, myself, Kurt, and we'll make sure that you are available there. And if there's other questions, as Tim said earlier, we absolutely value feedback. As Joel has mentioned, that kind of feedback is really important to us, and it helps drive the direction of the product. So it's really important that we hear from you. And if there are any other questions, please let us know. With that, Kurt, did you want to give any final words?
I have to come and find my unmute button here. Yeah, we appreciate everyone participating. This has been recorded, so we will make that available to share with others, and also so Joel can get that first 10 minutes that he missed. Also, we noticed that a number of you we're speaking with on the early adopter programs, so we're looking forward to that. Any others who are interested in these features or just collaboration on other functionality in the system, we very much appreciate hearing with you. Reach out with anything here. We look forward to seeing you in the next user group. You'll be getting invitations for that shortly, and appreciate you guys being customers.
Thank you again, everyone. And as mentioned, a link to the next user group is in the chat, so feel free to register, as well as invite anyone within your organization who may find it beneficial and useful, and we will be in touch. Thank you again, everybody, for your time, and please look out for a recording link we will be sending out to folks.